Oh, I'm sorry. I was on mute there. Um, Let me begin. Let me begin again. Okay. So, see, this is what happens in life. We have a plan and then we go to it, and something challenges that. And what I was saying in the beginning was that this series that I'm talking about, as I focus on ADHD and ADD, these are experiences that everyone has, and they're transferable. So if you don't have ADHD and you're tuning in, or you know somebody that may be experiencing these issues, I want to encourage you to pass this along to them, because we all experience very similar things in life. And we discover that as we begin to have conversations. And we didn't know that somebody else went through something until we express what we've shared, what we've experienced, and they go, "Oh, you too." And today's topic is about sleep. And there's so much out there on sleep. There's no way we could cover it all in one session. So I want you to just tune in and go along with me and experience, trying to see your own self in this picture. So imagine it's midnight and you are tired, exhausted from the day. You lay in bed and you start staring at the ceiling. Your mind begins to race, replaying conversations from the day, making that to-do list that you're putting together in your mind for tomorrow, and you even worrying about things that haven't happened yet. Now, anybody else there? You tell yourself that you need to go to sleep. You've said this. Yeah, I'm like, I need to go to sleep. I need to go to sleep. I got a big day tomorrow. I need to go to sleep. And you rehearse this over and over. Anybody else ever experience that? Well, the more you lay there, the more awake you are. Maybe you're a night owl, and maybe your brain just starts to light up at night. And while the world is quieting down, you might be exhausted, and you might think, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait to get in bed." And you get there, your head hits a pillow, and now your mind starts to run like a marathon. You start going over the things of the day, and you start to ask yourself questions like, did I lock the front door? When you know, in fact, that you did. Anybody ever done that? Besides those of us with ADHD? Have you ever thought, you got to get up to make sure that there's something that's done? Like, let's say the trash gets put out and you're a day early and you've already run it out to the road at that time because you've got out of bed because you thought it was a different day. Have you ever thought any of these things? Well, what if I told you that sleep isn't just a nice to have thing, but it's actually a secret weapon to unlocking focus, energy, and emotional stability, especially those of us with a busy brain? As we're ruminating, or as we're thinking about thoughts, as we're, creatives are constantly having their mind moving and going. I used to think that some of my most creative time was when I went to bed. And it was because I began to imagine, I began to think about things that I would do tomorrow. And it limited my sleep. And I would wake up in the middle of the night. I must have been having a dream of a creative moment. And I would get up in the middle of the night and I would write it down so that I didn't forget it. That's what happens when you have a busy brain. Well, today I want to talk about how it not only affects those of us with ADHD, but how many actually struggle with this. And most importantly, I want to provide simple, actionable steps that you can take to restore a restless brain. So whether you're a person who's scrolling, stays up scrolling, or gets up in the middle of the night like I did at 3 a.m. and starts writing things down, I want to help you implement some simple tips that you can apply to your life, and that you can actually wake up truly refreshed and unlock the science, these strategies, these small changes that can make a big difference. So why is it that people that have the gift of ADHD often struggle falling asleep? Well, imagine, like I said, you are exhausted after a whole day's work. And the second you lay down, your brain decides to turn on. Why is that? Have you ever noticed that you could be exhausted and lay down, and then all of a sudden your brain says, "Hey, let's wake up." Well, you remember that embarrassing moment from middle school, and that's been a few years. You begin to analyze what you have to do tomorrow or next week. You start contemplating what you're going to say in a conversation or an event that you're going to, and now your mind is awake and your body is exhausted. And this this happens because the brain doesn't naturally shut down for those of us with ADHD. Now, why is that? You see, it shifts into overdrive, and we start having these racing thoughts and this burst of energy, and even a second wind right at bedtime. And there's a reason for this, is because those of us with ADHD, there's this thing called delayed melatonin production. And often people that have ADHD have this experience, a delayed melatonin. And melatonin, we know, is there's that hormone that allows us to wind down in our brain. And this is why it's so vitally important that we get daylight early in the morning, and that we see that first light. And what it does is it activates that melatonin to decrease and the serotonin to increase. And this is why, and I want to say this is why gut health is so important, and what you feed your body, because I believe that it's like 80% of our serotonin is produced in our gut. Now, if you don't have good gut health, you don't have the ability to increase serotonin. And that is a brain hormone that is activated for our productivity, for our being able to not just survive, but to thrive. So hyperactivity, I want to clarify this as well. Hyperactivity isn't just physical energy. Hyperactivity could be mental hyperactivity. Our mind begins to race and begin to move. You don't have to be so jittery and jumping around all the time, but your mind can be racing. And these are the things that we don't see. And we begin to ask the question, why can't you concentrate? Well, they're trying to concentrate, but their mind is just in first gear going 70 miles an hour. And it's just trying to focus on everything and think about shifting into that second gear, third gear, fourth gear. And that's at night when the engine is supposed to be calming down, it's actually stirring up. So what happens when this takes place? Well, there's multiple things that contribute to this. One of them is screen time, late night screen time, late night snacking, inconsistent schedules trick the brain and into staying alert longer. So if you're up scrolling till 11 o'clock, your brain is going, hey, wait a minute. We normally have a wind down time, but apparently we're not doing the wind down time. So we're going to get activated, and we're going to create this routine, and I'm going to give you what you are feeding me, and I'm going to respond with the fuel that you're giving me. And if you're giving me screen time at 11 o'clock and you've done this, well, what happens is a blue light actually reduces the melatonin taking effect, because blue light does that. So screen time, TV time, phone time. And if you're paying the bill for the phone, you have the right as a parent to say, hey, phone's on the counter at night. They're not in the bedroom. And there's multiple good reasons for that. But one of them is how it's affecting the brain. And if you're an adult and you're scrolling on your phone late at night, this is something that you can take the heed too. You wake up feeling groggy and overwhelmed and tired and go, gosh, I don't know why I can't wake up. Well, because your brain didn't get to go to sleep. So a practical tip, number one, dim the lights at night. The last hour of the night Even in your family room, when you're sitting around watching TV, don't have the lights completely at full bore. If you can dim them down. It activates the chemicals in our body that allows us to begin to shut down and have that energy put in reserve so that the melatonin can take effect. And you don't need to take a supplement to do this. So many people are reliant on external things like a pill to get them to sleep. But if you apply some of these simple principles, you'd be amazed at the benefit that it can bring to you. So, using a brain dump journal. Now, what is that? You just take a notepad. I've got a notepad, and what I'll do is I will just begin to write down different thoughts, and I scribble them down. They don't have to be neat, and I can transfer it to something neat in the morning, and then I have it, and then I rip that away because otherwise my brain is going to go, did I even log that down? So as I'm dumping what's in my brain, I'm actually taking that energy out, and I've exercised it. And then another thing that you can do is try a guided meditation. There's multiple calming apps on the apps, and you can get that. You can put your earbuds in, do a half an hour of meditation, downloading. It gives the brain something soothing and gentle to focus on. Now, somebody asked me, what are some of the common disorders that are associated with ADHD? Well, think of it like this. Sleep is a playlist. For most people, it's a steady, relaxing playlist that slowly winds down and into a deep rest. But for people with ADHD, that's not always the case. And it's more like a playlist with random music. Like you can have a classical, and then all of a sudden you got some jazzy type music, and then something that is got cymbals and horns and drums and all kinds of stuff going on. And then all of a sudden you've got some nice melody. Well, that's how our brain is going. Random volume changes, sudden songs that spur us up. And that's what's happening in our mind. And there's this loop that takes place, and it makes sleep unpredictable. So many people with ADHD struggle with insomnia. They can't fall asleep. Or the delayed sleep pause syndrome. Now, this is an actual thing. It's a delayed sleep phase syndrome, and it naturally wired to fall asleep later than earlier and to wake up later than earlier. And this happens because our brain is going through these thoughts, and it's very active. Restless leg syndrome. Now, when I say syndrome, I want you to note that it is not a plague, but it's an observation. So if you notice somebody that they constantly move one leg up and down over and over, I mean, you're sitting there talking to them, they're having a conversation, and they're moving that leg. Well, it's an irresistible urge to move. And when you're doing that at night and you're laying in bed and that leg is moving and it's uncontrollable, and it's not been considered as Tourette's, then you know that your body is having a conflict, and your mind is having a conflict of the activity that you should be doing, sleeping, getting rest, and you just can't because your body is in this hyper aware, hyperactive, your mind, because your mind is moving. And then there's also sleep disordered breathing, which includes snoring and sleep apnea, which we know has multiple ramifications behind it. It can not only disrupt your sleep, but it can disrupt so much more of your health. And I want to say, if you've got either of those, make sure that you're getting medical care. I personally like naturopathic doctors, holistic practices, but that's me. So you can take it for what it is. Sticking to a consistent bedtime. Anything we do with repetition creates this pattern. So if you are going to bed at, let's say, 10:30, then go to bed at 10:30 every night. And at 9:30, dim those lights, turn off the phone, quit looking at social media, and get that blue light out of your eyes. Maybe read a book, a physical book, not on your phone, but a physical book. And that begins to calm the mind because it's not activated by that blue light. Another thing you can do, and I'm all about this, is doing some light stretches, laying on the floor, putting your knees up on the couch, laying on the floor, the arms stretch out to the side, looking straight up at the ceiling, not looking anywhere around. And you're going to notice that it's going to release the tension in your body. It'll help your back. It'll help your spine. It'll help your hips. It'll help you get a better night's rest. So doing some of these stretches can begin to calm the fidgeting mind. And how does poor sleep impact not only ADHD, but it impacts everyone? But my focus is on understanding that as it relates to you, remember that if your child has ADHD or your partner, your spouse, somebody that you know that you're very close to, and they have ADHD, understand that poor sleep really impacts them. It impacts them during the day. And they have a hard time functioning the first, 3 hours of the day. And then they start to get their wind, and you're like, man, you're a different person. You see, sometimes what happens is, and I've talked to many people, even those without ADHD, when they've gotten poor sleep, their breathing is different. And they're also beginning to have that brain fog. They can forget about where's the remote control, and they're looking for it while it's in their hand. Or you're looking for the keys that are in your pocket. You're looking for something that's right in front of you and you can't see it. And this is what happens to our mind. We're missing the very thing that is right in front of us. And this is all about what sleep can do, the deprivation of sleep. And it amplifies forgetfulness, losing things consistently. Impulsivity. Have you ever said yes before thinking or thinking it through? Have you ever said something else before thinking it through? I know you have, because I'm not the only one. And as it's leaving your mouth, the thought then comes, did I just actually say that? And I hope they didn't hear it, right? So these emotional ups and downs, feeling irritated, anxious, or unmotivated, can happen to those with ADHD. So, practical tip. Number one, you can set a sleep alarm. Now, this is a little bit different than the one that you wake up with, but setting it on your phone. My phone at 9:00, it says in sleep mode, and it goes dark. And, I had help getting that set up. It's amazing what younger people can teach us how to do. And so it says, in sleep mode. And so I know that within an hour, I need to be shutting things down because I'm making my way to bed around 10:00, sometimes 10:30. But I've dimmed the lights at that time. And I've limited my time on the screen, and I've put my phone away so that I'm not looking at it because I know what's happening. And then, the other thing that you can do is you can avoid caffeine after 2:00. So many people that have ADHD are on medication. So it hypes the body up. And if you don't take your medication early in the morning, like my son would take his medication, and a half an hour, you gave it to him, you just didn't talk to him for a half an hour. And after that, he was just like, great. And that's when his sleep pattern was coming out and waking up. And then he was hyped up the rest of the day. The thing you want to avoid is having caffeine after 2 p.m. because you've already got a stimulant with your medicine. Now, caffeine added onto that, it's a stimulant on a stimulant. And if you're drinking Mountain Dew, if you're drinking pop, or you're drinking coffee after 4 or 5 or 6 o'clock at night, your body's going to have a hard time adapting to your brain not wanting to shut down. And you can feel the fatigue, and your brain is just like, hey, let's go, let's go, let's go. And something that you could do, and I don't recommend this, that you get too carried away with it, but take a 20-minute siesta. Go out and sit in the sun. If it's cold, go out and sit in the sun anyway. The exposure to being outside, put your earbuds in and listen to something calming. Take a 20-minute nap. Set an alarm, make sure that it wakes you up so you're not sleeping, for an hour or two and then getting this burst of energy, and then you're sending me a nasty e-gram. So those are some simple things that you can do. And the other question that I got is, why do ADHD brains seem to be more alert at night? And how can you use this to your advantage? Okay. So when something is working against us, when there's an opposition, I say oppositions are opportunities for a different type of success. So have you ever noticed that you could feel suddenly more creative, productive, or even chatty at night? Like you just want to chat. You want to have conversations, and other people are like, can you stop already? Now, I don't know if you've ever met anybody like me, or anybody like that, but that's what happens. And I have this burst of energy actually throughout the day, just get me talking. And it's my nature, but not everybody's wired like me. So I have to be sensitive to them. So what do? I get that brain dump journal, and I start to write down the ideas, start to write down the conversations, start to write down the topics that I want to pursue, and books that I want to read, and why I want to read them. Have you ever bought something and go, why did I buy that? Well, if we have a brain dump journal and we write down why we bought something or why we want to read a book, and make a note of it, then it's out there, and we can have it kind of on a list of things that we can pursue. You see, as I said, those of us with ADHD can have this delayed circadian rhythm, and that is the sunlight. So if you wake up and it's dark, and you go to a building and you drive in the dark and you get there and it's dark and you don't get sunlight until mid-morning when your break is, your circadian rhythm is all jacked up. And that serotonin and that melatonin, they're struggling to get in order. And this is the problem with people that when they go into work and it's dark and they come home when it's dark, their body is just in this whirlwind. And now couple that with ADHD. Now you've got a rock concert going on when it should be sleep time. So what happens is our peak energy happens later on in the day. This is why it's so important to get sunlight, to get direct sunlight, not blue light first thing in the morning. And maybe you find that your creative nature is later. So work with that. Use a structured wind down time to kind of signal your brain that it's time to rest. Here again, it's getting rid of that blue light. It's getting rid of the bright lights, because if your brain is not like a light switch, you can't just flip it off. Mind the pun, you just can't turn the switch off. Okay? So here again, it's one of those sayings that you go, did I just say that? So as you set this wind down alarm, remind yourself that you're going to relax. You're not going to worry about work. You're not going to worry about the dishes or the all the things that you have to do tomorrow. And you begin to just wind down. Give yourself the break. One of the things else that you can do, and I'm learning so much more about the thing that we take for granted, and that's breathing. And one of the things that I've always done, as long as I can remember, is breathe through my nose. And I become more and more and more observant as I begin to understand breath and breath work. I'll watch people breathe through their mouth. They think they're getting oxygen, but they're not. They're getting air. And so it hypes the body up. It actually makes us hyperventilate in a sense, because we're always feeling like we're gasping for air. So when I say take a deep breath, and this is what I've done with my clients, and this is what I've done with people that I've worked with for many, many years. And this is what I'll do with people when I'm on the phone with them, and I can sense that they are very anxious or stressed out. And I'll ask people, I don't even know them. They call and they're trying to sell me something. And I say, you sound stressed. And they go, yeah, my job is stressful. And one thing I do is I say, I want you to just take and put your hand on your chest and breathe in through your nose diaphragmatically. Okay, this is your belly breathing. And breathe in through your nose 5 seconds, and then hold it for 5 seconds, and then release it. And it's amazing what it will do to your body. Now, if you have ADHD, or you have a child with ADHD, or you have a partner with ADHD, I want you to try this out. I want you to breathe in deep and slow through your nose. A nice light breath, not to where you hear it, but just a nice, so light that it's hard to hear that you're breathing in. And then as you do that, as you release that, you'd be amazed at what it does to calm your body, calms your mind, gets you present. So some of the best strategies that you can do to improve your sleep. Think about sleep like a phone battery. If you don't charge it up, it's not going to work the next day. And I know people that they forget to charge their phone, and then they're scrambling because their phone doesn't have a battery. And they've scrolled all night, and then they forgot to reach over and plug it in. They fell asleep with the phone on their hand. They wake up, which is a terrible thing to do. As I said, having your phone in your bedroom to where you can hear alerts and alarms, worst thing you can do for the quality of your sleep. So the ADHD person that has ADHD needs to be intentional about their sleep. Otherwise, it's going to be fighting a fire with a squirt gun full of gasoline. It's just not a good thing, and doesn't work very well. So here are some simple game-changing strategies. Create that bedtime buffer zone. No screens, no work, no stimulating conversations, 30 to 60 minutes before you go to bed. Don't have that conversation right before you go to bed about what somebody else didn't do and why they should have done something different. That won't get you any sleep and might put you on the couch. And then engage in sensory relaxation. Maybe you could try some weighted blankets, some white noise. They've got these white noise. You can actually put the app on a phone, put it across the room. There's these little sound boxes that have this white noise. Also, another thing is lavender essential oils. Put that in your diffuser. Create your room to be a haven and set it up for success. Lavender is a calming essential oil, and it will actually calm your nervous system down. And make sleep a non-negotiable. Make your sleep routine like you would a work deadline. Why? Because it's vitally important. And another thing you can do is when you do wake up, Get some sunlight. If you're closed up in a room, if you're closed up in an office and you don't have natural light, and it's not even through glass, you don't get the same effects. Get outside. I don't care if it's 2 degrees outside. Go outside just for a few minutes. Put a jacket on. It's like walking across a parking lot. You don't have to leave anywhere. Just go outside and get some natural light. Get some light in your eye throughout the day, throughout the hours. You know, I always tell people, if you're sitting for an hour, you need to get up and move for at least 10 minutes. Why? Because your body needs that. Your body needs to express its energy. So as you do this brain cool down ritual, like warm shower, journaling before bed. And here's the other thing. Bed is the place for sleeping. I can't stress this enough. So if you wake up in the middle of the night, get out of bed. If you can't go to sleep, get out of bed, go sit on a chair and read a book. Don't do it in your bed, because here's what your brain does. It associates the activity with the place that you're at. So if you are 3 o'clock in the morning, you wake up, you perk up, you sit up in your bed, you grab your book, you grab your Kindle, you grab your phone, and you start reading. Your brain starts to associate and says, hey, wait a minute. This isn't just for sleeping. We can actually read. We can actually play a puzzle. We can actually do something. So that's what your brain stores in your library. So get out of bed, go sit in another room, in another chair, grab a blanket and read, and watch how fast you get tired. And as you associate that, now you know it's a memory that's in your brain that you can, this is the place for sleep. So what I want to say is that sleep isn't just about feeling rested. It's the key to focus. It's emotional regulation. It's productivity. If you struggle with sleep, small changes can lead to big improvements. So I'm going to check and see if there's anything in the chat. I got nothing there. Fantastic. So here's what I want to share. You're not lazy if you're sleeping. It is a requirement of the human experience. And if you're struggling with your sleep, it doesn't mean that you need to get up and do other things. It means that your body is not regulated yet. Number one, you're not broken because your brain is operating at night. Just remember that. Sleep isn't about being perfect. It's about creating rhythms that can work with your brain, not against it. So tonight, take one small step. What could you do? What is something that I've mentioned that you could do? Maybe you could turn the lights down, put your phone across the room, or even ask somebody for support. You know, the thing about experiencing life is we're not designed or intended to do it alone. And if you can't do it by yourself, then have an accountability partner, having somebody that you can share that you are having a struggle with, and to be able to talk through without judgment and without the should haves and if you'd only, none of that, but asking the questions, what is it that you're doing to set yourself up for success? So let's get real for a moment, okay? Like I said, sleep isn't just about feeling less tired. It's about showing up fully in your life with clarity, energy, and a sense of control over your day. When you're asleep, when you're sleep deprived, everything else feels harder. Everything else struggles. The world moves too fast. Your thoughts feel jumbled. Even simple decisions become overwhelming. It's like you're trying to navigate with a foggy windshield. Have you ever tried to do that? Has your windshield ever been dirty? Like you just didn't turn the wipers on and gradually that mist from the tires in front of you, and it just began to just cloud cloud the windshield, and you can still see through, but you can't see the details. And somebody that you may be driving with says, "Are you going to turn the wipers on?" And you go, yeah, and it just happens so gradually. Well, this is what happens when you're sleep deprived. When you get that sleep, now you remove the fog, you remove the mist, you remove the debris that's collected. Imagine if you woke up feeling more rested. Your thoughts are clearer, your emotions are more balanced, and that is a big benefit. Your focus lasts longer, and your body feels lighter, stronger, and more capable. It's not about sleeping more, it's about resting better so that your brain and your body can actually feel charged, heal, and function the way that it's meant to. So if you don't do anything, what is going to happen? Here's what's going to happen. Your focus is going to suffer. Your emotions are going to feel out of control. Have you ever dealt with somebody that their emotions were just totally out of control? And you say, "What side of the bed did you wake up on?" And I don't mean the left or the right. Was it the upside or was it under the bed? And, we kind of joke about that. But when somebody is sleep deprived, the problems seem much, much bigger. Everything feels like an uphill battle. Without sleep, your motivation disappears. You may want to be productive, but the energy just isn't there. And your body feels drained. Even sitting still, you're mentally exhausted before the day even starts. Here's the thing, it's not your fault. You're not lazy. This is not about a bad adulting. You're not doing it wrong. It's just doing it different that you get better results. So what if sleep became something that you actually look forward to? What if waking up felt refreshing, not exhausting? What if for the first time in a long time, your brain felt clear, steady, and ready for the day ahead? What are the possibilities that if you start small, just implement 1% each day, and 1% each day begins to add up? You begin to feel like you deserve it, like you feel good about yourself. You feel good about your life. You feel good about the activities that you're doing. You feel like you can focus, like you're energized and you're in control of your life. Instead of reacting, you're reflecting, and you're not putting out all the fires. You're actually creating the path to your brighter future. So here's 6 reflective questions, and I'm going to wrap this up. I wanted to share this with you. I wanted to bring this up. What does my current sleep pattern look like? What does it look like? Take an inventory. You see, you can't measure anything that you don't monitor. And, simplicity is the key to execution. So what does my current sleep pattern look like? And if you're fighting with it, what could you do to change that? What is one small change that you'll take from this talk that you'll make to help your brain transition more into sleeping easily and more consistently? How does your sleep environment support you? Does it support you or does it sabotage you? Is there essential oils going, or is there a sound machine going? Is your room clutter free? Are you tripping over stuff in the middle of the night? All these things set yourself up for success. What's one practical way that you could give your brain a cool down, kind of wind down? What is one thing that you'll implement today, tonight, that could set you up for success? And then take an inventory of how did you feel when you woke up? Was your energy there in the morning, or did you struggle to get out of bed? And what could be better to improve your focus, your emotions, or your motivation? And who else in your life might be struggling with the same thing? that might be struggling with sleep. It's something that maybe we don't talk about, but maybe it's a conversation starter. Hey, have you ever struggled getting to sleep? You'll find that there are many, many people, and you'll go, man, I can't imagine you with all the energy that you have, you'd struggle with sleep. Well, we hide these things because we think we're the only one. So I want you to take a moment and I want you to sit with these thoughts, sit with these questions. No pressure, but it's an opportunity to explore what resonated with you and understand that your best days start with your best nights. So let's make some simple shifts and get a better night's rest. And I'm curious. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you didn't like about this. Tell me what it didn't do for you. And that gives me an objective, an opportunity to reflect and maybe I don't have all the answers, but I could discover an answer that might satisfy. So whatever it is that feels doable, implement that tonight. So until we meet again next week, be outstanding and have an outstanding week. We'll see you the next time. Take care.